Hello my lovelies, welcome back to my channel. Today let's talk about grad school applications. Hi, if you're new to my channel, my name is Isa and I am a second year graduate student in a Communication Studies Masters of Science program with a focus in disability, culture, and identity. Typically on this channel, I'll focus more on the disability elements, but I also wanted to share my experience throughout the graduate application process and some of the advice that I have been given or I have. I know that I'm kind of late in that process making this video, but hopefully it'll help somebody in the future because it's kind of the questions that I hope to answer some of the questions that I had when I was initially doing my graduate master's applications. So in this video, what I'm going to be doing is going through my graduate application process from the beginning to the end, going over some specific things that you have to have for the application, and hopefully it all makes sense. I'll have time markers down below. Let's jump in. I made the decision to apply to grad school fairly early on. I had just transferred to a new university and I was just starting to fall in love with research. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, but I'm pretty sure I wanted to apply to some form of master's program in communication studies. And so I was advised by my debate coach some different information to help me prepare even in sophomore year. I really struggled that semester, so I needed to kind of have distinct goals. I know plenty of people who did gotten amazing scholarships, just into amazing programs, and made the decision in during their senior year, but I started working a little bit earlier. So I was told that I needed to bring my grades up to a 3.5. I did not have that at the time. I really struggled my first semester. I was having health issues and I just transferred. So I worked really hard to bring up my grades to 3.5, and then I was also advised, I did not do, to start studying for the GRE as early as possible, specifically just learning GRE words and trying to passively study so that it wasn't going to be so much at that end. So I started studying for my GRE the summer before my senior year, and I'm pretty sure, I don't remember the exact date, I'm pretty sure I took it at the beginning of my semester senior year. And I did not do great. I got 2 points below average, but I still got into all 4 of my universities that I applied for, and then I was on the waiting list for 2 universities for funding, and I ended up getting funding for the university that I ended up at. So that's really awesome. That's something to be considering when you're applying to grad school, especially if you're not that aware of different options. Graduate school, not the best programs necessarily based off of academic programs, but ideally you don't want to have to pay for your schooling. So definitely pay attention to graduate teaching assistantships, graduate research assistantships, fellowships, those types of things. They're very important, and they definitely help a lot of people get funding. Even if you can't get like a stipend to pay for your school, some schools will even offer tuition kind of coverage while you're at the university, and that's really awesome. So those are things to pay attention to. The next step was to identify the schools that I wanted to apply to. So part of that decision was made by the deadlines because I got a little bit behind. Again, I'm chronically ill and disabled, so I got a little bit behind on those deadlines. So some of the universities that I wasn't super attached to, the deadlines passed in December, so those deadlines start coming up pretty quickly, and then the real big ones, the majority of them, was between January and February. So I went to the National Communication Association conference. I had that opportunity. I got a little bit of funding to do that in undergrad, and while there I had the opportunity to meet a lot of different people, and I specifically wanted to study disability, culture, and identity, but there really isn't any program that does that. So I talked to people about where they were going, what they were doing. I talked to one person who was a graduate director that I had not even known that the school existed, and I ended up applying to that school. It was almost the school that I went to because of a conversation that happened while I was at the National Communication Association. There was also some schools that I chose not to apply to after talking to them, just seeing that we didn't mesh well. And that's something that I'm really appreciative of as my ability to go to NCA that year, because it gave me the opportunity to have those discussions that I wouldn't otherwise have done, because I would have had to go based off of the NCA website and kind of word of mouth of what other people say. However, I do know a lot of other people who didn't get to attend NCA, and they just reached out to the graduate directors of the programs that they wanted to, and most of the time the graduate directors should connect you to a current student if you ask. So that's something that is really good to know. And talking to students at that university is one of actually, I think, the best ways to identify if that university is a good fit for you, because you'll be working with those students who then may be a little more honest about the experience of being a graduate student there and kind of the expectations. Because I wanted the opportunity to really develop my research skills, at the time I had planned on continuing for my PhD, but I'm now going to take a break. But at that time, it was really important for me to be able to develop strong foundation in research that would give me the ability, like a program that would give me the ability to kind of study what I wanted, given that not a lot of programs had anybody who studied disability studies. So I made that the main priority, and the second priority was my funding. So if I could find a program that kind of, as my mentor kind of talks about it, as the create your own adventure, that was something really important to me. And then also having a place that offers sufficient funding for the location. Something to be aware of is the difference between a research-focused program and kind of a terminal master's program. I am currently at a terminal master's program. However, my terminal master's program has a big emphasis on gearing you towards PhD program. And so some programs will provide you a really solid foundation in research, preparing you for PhD, and then some, especially the ones that are PhD masters, and then some will gear you towards the corporate world. So I actually ended up at a program that was a little bit more of a balance of both. It's not quite a balance, it's very research heavy, but kind of also offered the opportunities to develop a lot of professional development skills. So again, some things to consider. So after deciding what schools that I wanted to apply to, I then had to get together my transcript. I also had to get together my statement of purpose, which is kind of a short essay that you write for each university. It's a cover letter. Each university should have its own prompt that says, why do you want to go to this university? Why is it important to you? And then also you want So I also had to gather my writing sample. And my writing sample was something that I thought highlighted my ability to understand theory, which now I look back on it and it definitely, I've grown in that ability since starting grad school. And it also highlighted just my writing skill overall and my passion. So I used a paper that I wrote about the role of social media in the disability community, highlighting my own experience. I actually presented that paper at the National Communication Association conference in 2020 as a virtual presentation. And I really also worked on editing that paper in the Writing Center. I took it to the Writing Center. I'm like, guys, please help me. So if you have a Writing Center, I strongly advise you to seek them out, because Writing Centers are definitely something I think is one of the most underutilized tools at universities for things that are not specific to classes. At least my my Writing Center in undergrad had plenty of opportunities to talk to people who've applied to grad school, even if it wasn't in communication studies. And so kind of they know that process and they work with others. And that's an incredible resource to definitely use. You also want to choose the people that you're going to ask for your letters of recommendation. You probably want to do this fairly early in the fall semester. I chose my people a little bit earlier than I did my schools. Mostly, you want to kind of have a good balance of when you're choosing your people versus when you're choosing your schools. I chose some individuals that I had been a student in their classroom, that I knew had seen me do my best work, who knew me the best, and I kind of made them the standard of people that I wanted to write my letters of recommendation. And then I also chose a couple people that I could swap in and out. Most programs that I applied to had between 2 and 3 letters of recommendation that they asked for. So I definitely kind of picked different people based off of who I thought was the best fit for that university. That's definitely something that was strongly recommended to me, and I'm recommending to you. If you have someone who is a graduate of one of the schools that you're applying to, definitely utilize them as a letter of recommendation, as long as you have a good relationship with them. You want to make sure that they can highlight your best skills. I was asked to provide a CV or resume to the people who wrote my letters of recommendation, and then the list of schools that I wanted to apply once I chose those schools, with some details as to why I was choosing those schools, so that the person could connect my list of schools to my personal skills and why I was a good fit for that university. I wanted to talk shortly about the statement of purpose. So your statement of purpose is going to be different for each university, and I know kind of explained a little bit what that means, but it also means that you really should write your statement of purpose to match your university. So if you're applying to a research focused program, you write about that. Or if you're applying to a mass comm program, you write about that. Or OrgComm, or whatever is the main focus of that school, you really want to highlight it. If there's a certain person that you want to work with, talk about it. Your statement of purpose is a great opportunity to highlight your specific passion, and that you are going to not only be a good candidate for the school, but you're also going to stick through grad school, because grad school is really, really hard. And from my best understanding of what people who decide who goes to grad school, one of the biggest things that they look for is who's going to be able to complete the program. Like, they want you to succeed, they want you to do well, so they are not going to give a full-time spot to somebody who can't commit full-time. Of course, everybody has their own life circumstances that can happen. Absolutely, I understand that as a disabled, chronically ill individual, but those are just some of the things that you can highlight: your resilience, your determination, the things that keep you in school when all else feels bad. So I put in my applications between January and February, and then I started hearing back from some schools in about late February, early March, and then I made my decision a week after the world shut down. I got a call that I got funding, and I waited a few days, and then I made the decision. Ultimately, I had to, COVID did play a small part in how fast I made that decision. I probably would have waited it out longer had I not, but I wanted to make sure that if I could get funding, I signed the contract so they couldn't take it away with any budget cuts. So, and then from there, after I signed all the paperwork, I was ready to go. I didn't really hear anything from the school until late summer, end of the semester, maybe is the first message, where they said, here's all of our new graduate students. And then I sent a message to all of my, all of the cohort that I could find, and like, hey, let's connect and be friends, and try to get to know them a little bit before school, because these are the people that you're going to be working with for a long time. They're your greatest allies. They can be your greatest resource to connect and just feel like you're not going crazy in grad school. So that's definitely what I did. And then we did training the week before school started, and then we jumped into school, and that was all virtual. So that was my experience in grad school and the grad school application process. I am not applying to PhDs currently. I'm not looking forward to that process if I choose to go back, or when I choose to go back. I hope this gave a little bit of a realistic perspective. I'm not somebody who got full funding at every program that I applied to. However, I am really proud of the work that I did put in, and I did have some things that I highlighted in my CV and my resume and some of my statements of purpose. I was the president of my chapter of Lambda Pi Eta. I also was the president and co-founder of a student organization, so just kind of, those little resume builders that are nice. I also had been on the speech and debate team all 4 years of my undergrad experience, and so those are some things that I highlighted to just kind of show, hey, I've got dedication, I say who I am. I'm not just a person in a classroom, but I'm dedicated as a worker as well. So I hope this provided some interesting information, some helpful information. If you would like to know more about grad school, I'm not planning on doing a ton of these videos outside of like its connection to disability. However, I do have one more video that I am planning on grad school that I'll hopefully get out in the next few weeks. That's the things that I learned in my grad program. The hard way, the good way, every way that I hope to share with you and might be beneficial. So, see you real soon.